Wow, we look so old-fashioned there. Hi, Gladys.
Hi, Pam.
Hello.
How are you?
Wonderful, thank you. And you?
I'm good. It's sunny today.
Yay.
Has everybody been in good health? And
Oh, that's a great picture of Gladys.
I know I was sent several of these by from Tammy and a couple of other of Gladys's good friends, and it
Mhm.
was really fun going through them all.
Mhm.
She's lived quite the life.
Yes, she has. A long time ago, before the women's movement really had caught on in Lansing, Gladys and I used to drive 3 days a week with Gladys up to Saginaw because we both taught up there at Delta College, and it was the first year they were open. And we were teaching, of course, very different subjects, but we would go up, and at the point where you turned right to go into Delta College, there was a little bar, and we always stopped there for dinner, and we would get our dinner, and then we would go on and teach, and then driving back, we could jabber away on what our next mission in the women's movement was going to be.
Oh, to be a fly on that car door.
It was fun.
And who are you? I'm sorry.
Vicki Nyberg.
So nice to meet you. So nice.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I think we're gonna wait to get started right at 11 a.m. Make sure everybody has a chance to join. Hi, Deanna. Or Deanna. I'm not sure how you pronounce
Got
it.
it right. Deanna.
Deanna. I have a friend named Brianna, and she is constantly having to correct people from Brianna to Deanna. Or Bri. I'm getting both of your names mixed up.
Right, all right.
Let's see. We've got Alexandra. Hi, Alexandra. Oh my gosh. Is that Hillary behind you?
It is.
Oh,
Yes,
did you paint that?
I did. I did.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, what a gorgeous picture of Gladys. Wow. Thank you, Megan. Ah,
Oh, it's my pleasure. It is my absolute pleasure.
okay, there we go.
Good morning, Alex.
Hi, Vicki.
Do you recognize any of these people?
Well, that's Gladys.
Oh, okay.
I don't know who that is. She was
Oh, so that's pictures of
91.
her.
No.
All right. When the service starts, I'll stay with you, but you're going to tap it, and you see where it says mute?
No. Mhm.
See a few more people entering the Zoom room. Welcome, everybody.
Okay, I don't know her. She said, welcome,
Yeah.
everybody.
Mhm. Yeah. I don't know if you want to post to that way.
All right.
So beautiful.
So beautiful. Good earrings. Great jewelry. She also has this necklace in one of these pictures that is just styling, profiling. I love this. Katie Kavanaugh sent this to me, and I had never seen this before. And this is like one of the first articles written about the women's studies programs.
Hmm.
They were just starting, just starting out, and you can see Gladys teaching here. I just love this.
Yes.
I think that's your friend.
Mhm.
You can say hello. They'll hear you.
I'm sorry.
You can say hello. They will hear you. You can say hello and they will hear you.
Oh,
Hi, Pat.
I'm still trying to learn how to use
Hi,
this.
Lisa.
Yeah,
We
they
can
say-
see you.
Okay. So I can't hide anything.
Hi, Lynn. Oh, this is so wonderful to see everybody's
All right.
faces.
Let me see. I was going to see if I can. She's sharing her screen.
Okay.
This girl is. But in a little while, she'll probably make it where y'all can all see each other.
I sure
I'm on the
will.
phone,
I sure
Megan.
will.
I'm on the phone. I'm in my car.
I see that. You are multitasking this morning. Good for you.
Hmm.
All right, I'm gonna give it about one more minute.
Question, Megan, are you recording this?
Yes, I am recording this.
Okay.
I hope everybody is okay with that because I've got quite a few people who reached out to me and said they weren't able to make it today but that they would like the recording. So I hope it's okay with everybody that this is being recorded. If you prefer to keep your camera off or change your name if for some reason you're maybe in the witness protection program, you are certainly welcome to do that. And I am going to ask that everybody mute themselves. If you don't know how, I'll mute you myself. And, while we go through the beginning part of the program, but I do want to let everybody know there will be plenty of time to unmute yourselves and share and catch up. I know a lot of you, for a lot of you, this is the first time, getting together.
Michigan Women's Hall of Fame.
Looks like a few more people have joined us. Hi, Denise.
Hi, Megan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good.
I'm just scrolling through here and seeing
Oh,
every.
that's a nice picture. Very nice picture.
Wonderful to see all these good friends and familiar faces.
Hi,
Yes.
John.
Hi,
Hello,
John.
everybody.
Oh, hi, Jackie. Hi,
Hi,
Suzanne.
and Marcia. I haven't seen Marcia Van Ness in years.
The microphone.
And Jackie, I can hear your voice.
Sure, everybody knows my voice, don't they?
I guess so. I guess so.
Yep. Okay. I think we're going to go ahead and stop. Hello.
Hi.
Oh, look at this. This is such an amazing, thank you all for joining us today. This is really lovely. And I know how meaningful this is to all of you. So I'm going to ask that everybody mute themselves. To do that, you hover over your picture, you'll see the mute button, or at the bottom left hand of the screen, you'll also see a mute button. Either way, go ahead and push that button just so there isn't any kind of that vibrating sound that we can get sometimes. I'm going to go through and mute a few of you that are still unmuted.
Yeah, I'm having trouble muting mine, so if you would, that'd be great. Thank you.
I gotcha.
It's Nancy.
Thank you for not taking offense to my me muting you. Where are you, Nancy? There you are.
I'm right.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. You know what? Let's just go ahead and get started. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today to remember Dr. Beckwith. I am Megan Bergman, and I manage the Museum and Hall of Fame and the You Go Girls Empowerment and Leadership programs at Michigan Women Forward. It has been such an honor to work for the Museum and Hall of Fame, even if my first year was plagued, literally, by a pandemic and a flood. But it's just been incredible. And it is an even bigger honor to have had the privilege of organizing this memorial for one of Michigan's greatest. And to be able to spend this morning with all of you who were loved so dearly by her. My hope is that we all leave today knowing that Gladys's fighting spirit lives on through all of us. I know that is my personal mission. So, and now I would like to welcome Gladys's longtime friend and amazing artist, the creator of the medallion that all Hall of Fame honorees receive, Alexandra Summit, to share some opening remarks. And I'm going to go ahead and mute myself. And Alex, if you want to unmute yourself and take it away.
Good morning, everyone. So nice to see everybody. Yay. So Gladys realized that this was our time, a time for women to realize our full potential. She acted upon it and held the image of what women are foremost in her mind, and out came her recreation, a recreation of what women had done for all to see. There is a conspiracy of silence about accomplishments and a sort of tacit agreement to keep the secret, but Gladys would have none of it. She flew after it, an angel, spreading the word of women's accomplishments by arranging to award the medallion to each woman called out by their family, friends, and colleagues. In the face of no agreement, Gladys persisted, gathering an army of friends around her with whom she created the Michigan Women's Hall of Fame and Historical Center, with a rare discernment only achieved by those finely tuned intuition and intellect. Gladys, in nurturing a women's movement, knew that our stories needed to be told, making the roles that women have played in the world development acknowledged as a part of history, so it could become her story as well. Gladys saw us through a critical period of cultural and social development, where we came close to having our own woman president, joining all the many countries that are led by women. Now we have a woman vice president. 3 nights ago, I dreamed I walked into the cabinet room and I was the president. Gladys radiated joy, evoking higher consciousness, and was interested in everything human, animal, and spirit. She saw all sides of most situations and firmly took a stand for what she felt was right. The qualities in the poem by my friend and published author Bobby Bird exemplified Gladys's strength, endurance, and commitment. And she did grow up on a farm, she told me. It's called Old Lady Barn. Poor old lady barn, I heard them say, how dare they wag their heads at me and sigh. I have my pride and I won't stand for pity from the likes of them city folks. What if my shoulders sag a bit, my knees creak when the wind comes from the north? I'll admit that my joints prefer the warm days, but I've stored such memories in these bones. In my day, there were no homeless kittens. They all grew fat and lazy on warm milk. Creatures large and small would come for shelter, and not one was ever turned away. My loved ones are all gone, their children scattered, but their stories linger in my soul. It won't be long, and these folks will bury what remains of me and think me gone. But I will sing them haunting country music when the night wind whistles through the pine and fill their dreams with cobweb strands of her story. They will not forget this old lady barn.
So in this budget proposal is just...
This is next an Ojibwe prayer. O great spirit, whose voice I hear in the wind, whose breath gives me life, to all the world, hear us. We are small and weak. We need your strength and wisdom. Let us walk in beauty. Make our eyes ever behold the red and purple sunset. Make our hands respect the things you have made, and our ears sharp to hear your voice. Let us hear the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. Make us wise so that we may understand the things you have taught the people. We seek strength, not to be stronger than our brothers and sisters, but to fight our greatest enemy, ourselves. Make us always ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes, so that when life fades as the sunset fading, our spirit may come to you without shame. Next, performing a song that Gladys enjoyed is my daughter Ingrid Jorgensen and her husband Jeff Pivar, who generously contributed one of their original pieces. Take it away, Megan.
All right, can everybody see my screen? Fabulous. All right.
This song goes out to Gladys and her entire community who is here today, and especially to my mom and Dorothy. Gladys will be greatly missed. Such a powerful and amazing woman in her community, and we're really happy to be here today. This is called Good Morning.
It's right there, baby, don't you take a look. to be careful.
Uh-oh. It froze. No. Oh, I thought we were going to have a smooth sailing technology day.
We've got to
Hit pause.
We've got
Hit
a story
pause and
to
then
tell.
play again and see if that will reset it for you.
Yeah. Let me go ahead.
Just so you know, it took me like 9 minutes to actually get on, so I don't think this has been smooth at all.
No.
I tried on 2 different computers and my phone.
The world's problems bigger every day. Peace at home, we've got to live today. Don't go leaving 'cause I just woke up. I can see your love is something good. When there's someone who understands your soul, don't let the fear step in and take control. I'll get some coffee, you just stay in bed. Let me show you the words I've never said. I wanna love you with everything I know. It's time to dig, we have some seeds to sow. Between the lines, you can read my mind. Words fail me, there's so much inside. This world I've been don't serve me well. Sit down, baby. I got some stories to tell. I got some stories to tell. I got some stories to tell.
Yes, that was so beautiful. Thank you so much, Inger. I think I saw you on here.
I am here. Thank you so much.
That was amazing. That is such a jam.
That's the one my mom asked for. So I really appreciate you listening. It's really early in the morning here, so it was a hard time for me to be singing. So I wanted to pre-record it. Thank you.
It was perfect. Thank you so much. And now
I'm watching a memorial service.
oh, I'm gonna go ahead and mute you, Cindy. I'm sorry. Now I am going to welcome longtime friend and colleague Katie Kavanaugh to share a beautiful eulogy she wrote for Gladys. So Katie, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thank you. It's so good to see all of you. I know most of you, I've worked with most of you, so it's good to see you all. As Megan said, my name is Katie Kavanaugh, and I had the privilege of working alongside Gladys as the Assistant Director of the Michigan Women's Center and Hall of Fame. And then I also served on the Board of Directors of MWSA for many more years. We were friends for the last 20 years, which is nothing compared to the friendships, the length of friendships many of you had with Gladys. But I valued my time with. Whoops, okay, there we go, I got muted. Gladys hired me right out of grad school. I was 25 and it was my first real job. I was quickly intimidated by her credentials and knowledge. And I'll be honest, she scared the bejesus out of me when I first met Gladys. But it quickly became clear that Gladys was one of the kindest and most thoughtful people I had ever met. Although she was closer to my grandparents' age, we easily became friends, and I learned more about women's history and women's studies from her than I did in all of my college and graduate classes. Gladys also taught me about working with people and getting a job done. She was one of the most tenacious and persistent people I knew. Those of you here, I think everybody knew Gladys in different ways and in different contexts, but I just wanted to tell you some more about her that maybe you didn't know. Dr. Gladys Eloise Beckwith, and I love that her middle name was Eloise, and I never knew that until fairly recently. Gladys was born in 1929, the year of the Great Crash and the start of the Depression, in Flint, to Arthur and Ina May. Like most families during the Depression, the May family lived frugally, never one to let adversity get her down. Gladys told this great story that as a kid trick-or-treating, one neighbor would offer the kids a bite of a pickle, not a whole pickle, one bite and of the same pickle. The kids would line up and take a bite and were perfectly content with their treat. Perhaps her persistence, strong work ethic, and compassion for others came from growing up in tough times. Gladys greatly valued education, a theme that we saw throughout her life. She graduated from Flint Central High School and Flint Junior College, and then earned a BA in English, an MA in English and Education, and a PhD in teacher education, all from Michigan State. Gladys educated thousands of students throughout her career. She taught at the elementary and secondary levels in public schools in Maine, Texas, and Michigan during the 1950s. She then taught at the university level at Baylor University in Texas before moving to Michigan State in 1965, where she stayed until her retirement in 1999. Teaching and interacting with young people may truly have been Gladys's first love. She was always excited to hear about what was happening on campuses and sharing ideas with students. In fact, out of all the many activities that we did at the center and in MWSA, her favorite activity was the annual academic conference held at colleges and universities around the state. It was while teaching at the Department of American Thought and Language at MSU that Gladys began to create courses focused on women, women writers, and women's history. Gladys and a handful of her colleagues then created the Women's Studies program at MSU in 1973. This is one of the earliest women's studies programs in the country. In fact, that same year, Gladys and one of her classes were featured in a US News and World Report article about the newly emerging field of women's studies. And Megan had that article in the picture showing on our screens earlier. Looking back at the creation of these classes, Gladys once said that what women's studies said was, there is a women's way of looking at the world, and women have contributed and they have shaped society, and we need to know just in what ways women have shaped it. So Gladys spent her life searching for how women shaped the world, but in the process, she shaped it herself. Along with some MSU colleagues, Gladys created the Michigan Women's Studies Association, MWSA, in 1973 to include community members in the women's movement and to encourage women's studies and feminist thought on academic campuses throughout the state. The idea of an association dedicated to discovering the lost and long forgotten history of women was so new that MWSA predates the National Women's Studies Association. Gladys served as the first president of the association, and with just a short interruption, she would hold that post until 2010. Gladys began to dream at this early stage of a place where the newly discovered information could be presented to the public. She also envisioned this place as a community meeting point where feminist ideas could flourish and be shared. Their goal was to influence education and to enrich the curriculum of public schools and colleges with the inclusion of information about women. So Gladys and Lansing City Councilwoman Lucille Beelan negotiated with the city of Lansing for $1 a year lease on the Cooley Hayes House in downtown Lansing. This beautiful historic home was once a governor's residence, but by then had fallen into disrepair and was scheduled to be demolished to make room for a parking lot. The city required that MWSA pay for the $250,000 renovation, which doesn't seem like much now, but in the late 70s, early 80s was quite a sum. So it was a huge fundraising task. The association had $1,200 to its name at that point. It took several years, but this became the Michigan Women's Historical Center and Hall of Fame. This facility finally opened on June 10th, 1987, which was the anniversary of the date in 1919 when Michigan ratified the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. So this was just a glorious day for members of MWSA, but it was especially meaningful to Gladys, who was a driving force behind its creation. Gladys served as the executive director of the Michigan Women's Historical Center and Hall of Fame. This position required not only an extensive knowledge of women's studies and various women's issues, but an ability to constantly be raising enough funds to keep the nonprofit going. While I hated making those phone calls, those fundraising phone calls, Gladys actually liked it. They gave her a chance to talk with people, something that she greatly enjoyed, and it gave her the chance to promote the center at the same time. During those years, Gladys could be found most days, including weekends and numerous evenings, at the center leading tours, talking to various groups, or working on the next of seemingly endless projects the small staff performed. She traveled throughout the state, speaking about women's history and about the center. Gladys served in the position of executive director from 1987, when we opened, until her retirement in 2008. Perhaps her most remarkable part of all of this is that Gladys did it completely without pay. It was all volunteer for her because it was something that she loved and was passionate about. But never wanted to sit still or feel she had done enough. Gladys also served as a trustee on the Lansing Public Schools Board of Education for 18 years. In many ways, she felt this was the most important work she did. She knew that when you reach kids, you could make a true difference in them and the world. She often encouraged others, especially women, to serve on their local school boards. In fact, I'm currently serving on a school board in part because of her. I had breakfast with Gladys shortly after the disastrous 2016 election. I was devastated and so angry and felt like everything was lost. But because she's Gladys, she snapped me out of it and told me to go out and do something about it. So I left that breakfast completely inspired and re-energized. She also told me to get on the school board, that's how you make change. So after that, I threw myself into state politics at the grassroots level. But also 2 years after that, I ran for and won my seat on a local school board. She was so proud of me for doing that. Our last phone conversation actually was about my re-election to the board. Gladys also served for many years on the state board for public community colleges. She very much believed in community college and saw the many advantages it had for many students. And many of those students were women. Gladys was always a community leader and deeply involved in various community and women's groups. I'm sure many of you know her in that capacity. She was a member of the Advisory Committee on Education for the Michigan Women's Commission, and she was active in the local and the state Democratic Party and in the ACLU. She was also an active member of AAUW, BPW, and Zonta. Gladys was a committed activist on behalf of women for most of her adult life. She was one of several women who refused to be denied seating in a male-only dining room in a Lansing restaurant. This restaurant later closed rather than open its whole facility to women. She was also actively involved in winning reproductive rights for women. One of her greatest stories she told was of being physically tossed out of a post office for gathering signatures in support to legal access to abortion. Gladys mentored countless younger women, encouraging and guiding them through academic, professional, and personal decisions. Gladys was always full of surprises. I only knew her when she was older, but I wish I had been with her in the early days as well. I've always suspected that Gladys hired me because I was young and strong and somebody had to do the heavy lifting at the center. She used to call me sturdy, which I never knew quite how to feel about. She also had a great sense of humor and she fully got my sarcasm. We laughed a lot in the office. I have to share one of my all-time favorite Gladys stories. This has some language. One time, and it must have been in the late 60s or the early 70s, and I wish I had asked her when, pinpoint the date. But on this occasion, Gladys had been called in to be an expert witness in the defense of a young woman who had been arrested for swearing at a police officer. Since she was a professor, Gladys was brought in to explain that the word fuck had a long history and was an acceptable word to use. She came in all dressed up in white gloves and a hat and proceeded to talk all about the word fuck. I loved it when she would tell me the story because it was so funny and because I never or very rarely heard her use any of that kind of language herself. So it was a bit shocking coming from her. Gladys was a true animal lover who supported and adopted pets from local shelters. She left behind her sweet Yorkie named Yoda and 2 cats. Gladys loved all animals, including even the raccoon that she live trapped and then drove to the forest to release. She said that he was a perfect gentleman as he rode through town in her backseat. She had many dogs over the years and she loved them all. And the last several years, Gladys purposely adopted senior dogs so they could live out their last years in a loving and comfortable home. When Gladys and I were working together, I heard countless stories of her beloved and troublesome beagle named Miranda, who was known to eat students' papers among her many naughty things. Gladys let me bring my miniature pinscher puppy, Jack, to the office, and he became our unofficial mascot and guard dog. He charmed us all by sleeping in my top desk drawer and by walking across the conference room table during our office meetings, giving everyone kisses. Jack would bark and bark as everybody came in first thing in the morning, and it was enough to make you crazy. But Gladys, because she, being the person that she was, would always say, "I hear the voice of an angel. Is that Jack?" Gladys was many things to many people. She was a loving wife and mother, a dreamer, a doer, a lifelong friend, a mentor, that lady who saved the big yellow house on Main Street, a trailblazer, a teacher, a colleague, an inspiration, and a hero. She saw the best in everyone and helped those in need. She was incredibly generous with her time and her resources. Gladys won many awards during her life, including being named 2004 Michiganian of the Year by the Detroit News, the Harriet Tubman Award from the Detroit Now, the Presidential Award for Outstanding Community Service from Michigan State University, and she was inducted into her own Michigan Women's Hall of Fame in 2012. Gladys was preceded in death by her parents and her husband, Dr. Gerald Beckwith, who shared her dreams. Jerry was by Gladys's side, encouraging her every step of the way as she strove to right the gender imbalances in society, academia, and history. She is survived by her beloved daughter, Christine, by her cousin, Dolores, and by many dear friends, including Tammy, Pam, and Tess. I know that Gladys and Tammy had a very special bond, and we are all so thankful that Gladys had Tammy in her life, who so lovingly cared for Gladys in those last years. I'm so happy so many of you could be here today over Zoom. I laugh when I imagine what Gladys would have to say about a virtual memorial over the internet, but I know that she would brush off all of the attention. I'm so sad to have lost my friend and my mentor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie. That was, yeah, absolutely. That was, I see a lot of applause. That was beautiful. You know, I just real quick, I am a testament to the importance of the Michigan Women's Historical Center and Hall of Fame and Dr. Beckwith. My mom, you know, my mom and her village of women raised me as a feminist, but it wasn't until the very first time she took me to the Cooley Hayes House, the Michigan Women's Historical Center and Hall of Fame, where I realized, I was young, I was like 7, where I realized, oh, wait, it's not just my mom and her friends spewing all of this stuff. This is, you know, valued by my community, by Lansing as well, by others. This is a community fight, and it ignited something in me. And I loved going to that museum. I would like run around that house. I loved that house. It was fun. So thank you again. And now I am going to introduce Carolyn Casson, the president and CEO of Michigan Women Forward. We merged, Michigan Women Forward and the MWSA merged in 2018. And so now I'm gonna let Carolyn share something that she prepared for us. So Carolyn, there you are, I see you. All right, go ahead and take away.
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much, Megan, for inviting me to participate in this. Thank you, Katie, for that absolutely touching, beautiful. You know, we did learn, all of us learned something probably we didn't know about Gladys. So thank you for putting that together. I don't know about all of you, but I really needed this. I felt like, even though I only knew Gladys in the last 10 years of her life, I can't imagine the world without her. You know, I still think she's around and then I'm going to get a call from her or something. And, you know, I think I have tattooed on my arm, figuratively, not literally, WWGD, you know, what would Gladys do? Or sometimes WWGT, what would Gladys think? Because I certainly never wanted to do anything that Gladys didn't think was the right thing to do to move this all forward. And so I want to just tell you a little bit about what I think was one of her last really big projects. and accomplishments. So we, as it says, maybe if, I don't know if you all got an agenda, but I got a nice agenda that Megan put together. But at the Michigan Women Forward board meeting, right very soon after, just a day or two after Gladys's death, in December, we decided that we should put together a tribute resolution that would honor and express our sympathy, but also the profound loss that Michigan experienced when Gladys died. And so we have put together a board resolution that will be passed officially by the board. And I wanted to share that with you, although I think Katie did a really perfect job of outlining it, and I'm not going to read the whole resolution to you. I'll just sort of start towards the end where Michigan Women Foundation and the Hall of Fame and Women's Historical Association came together. And so that, I think that's really, she did a much better job of putting all that together. But this is a resolution that will be enshrined at the Hall of Fame and the Historical Center, and will be put into a plaque and remain, so that the next group of girls that comes through, like Megan, can be inspired and can learn her story and can continue her work. So that's what, that's kind of what this is about. And with Katie's permission, what we'll do is maybe steal shamelessly from some of your remarks, because those were great stories and we don't want to lose them, and can incorporate them into this resolution that will be approved next month. In 2016, Gladys reached out to probably many people. I'm not under any illusion that the only group she reached out to was the Michigan Women's Foundation. But I do know for a fact that she reached out to her dear friend and colleague and fellow activist Jackie Taylor, Dr. Jackie Taylor, who was on our board and had chaired our board for a period of time at the Michigan Women's Foundation. And I think it appeared to me anyway, as someone who had just met her when I took on this role back in 2010, that she knew that she was in the last years of her life, even though she never appeared to be that. She never missed a beat. She never stopped. I think she was looking and to make sure that her legacy and the work that she had done could continue and could live on. And so I know she spent a lot of time trying to do the right thing by these organizations that she had put so much love, attention, and she had built from the ground up. They were as important as her children, I believe. And that's how she reached out to us. And so we embarked on a 2-year getting to know each other, seeing if it could work, seeing if we could help her secure the future of the Women's Historical Center and the Hall of Fame. I believe she found in us a receptive and an incredibly grateful organization who not only treasured her contribution, but a group of people that were willing to commit themselves to continue and even to expand her vision. Because, Gladys never saw this work as complete. She always saw it as a process, and that she was still thinking about good and important things that we could all be doing to level the playing field for women and to make sure that we celebrate the women who had gone before us and upon whose shoulders every single one of us sits or stands. Some of us are sitting, some of us are standing, I guess. We discussed this, members of her board discussed it, our board discussed it for 2 years, and we ended up making that decision in 2018 that this was the right thing for our organizations to join forces and to continue on with her legacy. And so we benefited greatly from her guidance, her influence, and best of all, we got Denise Quarles in the bargain, and she became a member of our board and has done a wonderful job. And I promise you, represents the work that that Gladys has done, and she also has tattooed the "What would Gladys think? What would Gladys do?" And make sure that we never forget that. So here at Michigan Women Forward, and you can see that Gladys's impact even changed the name, because the Michigan Women's Foundation didn't really do the work justice, that we had to move women forward. We couldn't be content with what we had accomplished in the past. We had to continue this fight. And so we actually even changed our name as a tribute to the work that had been done and that was still left to do. We consider it, Michigan Women considers this our honor and our privilege to carry on Gladys's legacy and her life's work. So this tribute ends with resolved that this tribute be enshrined in the Michigan Women's Historical Center and Hall of Fame as its founder, Gladys, Eloise. I'm going to add Eloise now, Katie, because I think that is a great addition, Beckwith. And a copy of this tribute will be transmitted to her family as a token of our esteem and all of our heartfelt devotion to Gladys Beckwith and her vision of a world where women's contributions are known, celebrated, and honored. Thank you so much, Gladys. And thanks to all of you who loved her and those of us who had the privilege of spending time and being influenced by her leadership, her vision, and her courage. Thanks.
Yay, thank you. That was so lovely. And thank you, Carolyn, for giving Denise Quarles a shout out. I want to thank not only Denise, but all of the women on this call today, and men. Representative John Dole as well has been a huge help. And they all sit on the advisory council and have just been extremely. We've got Pam Withrow here. I'm going to call you out. I'm going to call everybody out by name. We've got Pam Withrow. We've got Shirley Zeller, Dr. Jackie Taylor, Denise Quarles, as I mentioned, Lisa Craig Bryson, who has also been super helpful throughout this flood disaster. And let's see, Angela Rydell does not sit on the advisory council, but she has also been extremely helpful. We actually FaceTimed and I was showing her some of the damaged goods from the museum. Suzanne Fisher, hi, thank you. She sits on the advisory council. And I think that's everybody here on the advisory council. Again, thank you guys so much. All right, so before I open it up to sharing memories, conversation, etc., I have a very special treat for everybody. At least I think it's a special treat because I am a huge fan of this woman. So bear with me as I try to share this screen. All right, so Governor Whitmer could not be with us today, but she and her team made it a priority that she was able to share her her love and respect for Dr. Beckwith. So can everybody see my screen here? Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and push play. This is the first time I'm seeing them too, because I wanted to see them with all of you, so.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Whitmer. I'm recording this message today with a heavy heart to honor Dr. Gladys Beckwith, Michigan's gender equity giant. She was the definition of a trailblazer, and the paths available today for women and girls in Michigan wouldn't be possible without her monumental achievements. The institutions she created, from the Michigan Women's Studies Association to the Michigan Women's Historical Center and Hall of Fame, helped establish us as a state that not only recognizes the important contributions of women, but values them. Dr. Beckwith, without doubt, paved the way for women who want to lead, and the reason Michigan is led today by 3 women is in large part due to her life's work. So I want to personally express my gratitude to Dr. Beckwith, her family, and all those here today who fought beside her. I can't wait to see how the Michigan Women's Historical Center and Hall of Fame, one of her greatest achievements and contributions to the state, how it continues to educate and cultivate future female leaders and allies. Today, we honor Dr. Gladys's legacy and look forward to the work of advancing her life's mission and creating a truly equitable Michigan. Thank you, and solidarity to you all.
Yay! Was everybody able to hear that okay? Okay, awesome. Yeah, I thought it was, really important to give the governor a chance to share today, because I think we all can truly say that, Governor Whitmer and Secretary Benson and Attorney General Nessel, they most likely would not be where they are right now if it weren't directly related to the work of Dr. Beckwith. And I don't think that's hyperbolic to say. I think that's a fair thing to say. So thank you all. So now I would really like to open it up to all of you who knew Dr. Beckwith best and loved her. But in order to make sure that, people aren't speaking over each other and that it's not complete Zoom chaos, if you could please type in the chat, I'd like to share, or, something, whatever you'd like, however you'd like to say it. And then I will call on you. I will ask you to share. You can then unmute yourself, or I can unmute you. And if you could, because we have only until 12:30, if you could keep your share to, less than 2 minutes, just brief and quick. And then, once everybody's shared what they feel like they, are moved to share, I will then open it up. Everybody can unmute themselves and it can just be, chit-chatting and all of that. So it looks like I've got 2 people already. I'm going to go ahead and start with Miss Cambridge, Deanna Cambridge, who is the governor of the capital area, Zonta, correct?
Well, the title is Zonta International District 15. But again, my name is Deanna Cambridge, and I bring greetings on behalf of the Zonta Club of Michigan capital area, of which Gladys was a member. And I am a member of that club as well, along with Denise Quarles and Pam Withrow, and I see Holly on from our club also. So we wanted to just take a moment as members of her home club to honor and remember her. And we definitely thank Pam for being the member that picked up Gladys and brought her to all the meetings and kept her engaged and involved all the way up to the last moment. So we thank you, Pam, for that. And Zonta's mission is empowering women and girls through service and advocacy, and that embodies everything that has already been shared and discussed about Gladys today. On a personal note, Gladys was an encourager, supporter, lover of the good, creator, and a constructor. She would encourage me as I joined Zonta and then moved through a variety of leadership roles. And the one thing that I really remember is when I first became president, she pulled me aside after a meeting and said, "Great meeting, Deanna." I was really inspired. And I thought to myself, whoa, if I could inspire her, I've done my job. And so I am grateful for her willingness to always reach back and bring someone forward with her. So I think also the change of the name is so apropos. I share the sentiments expressed by those that have already spoken, but I want to leave us with just a poem that embodies, I think, everything about Gladys, and it's entitled The Bridge Builder. It says, an old man going a lone highway came at the evening cold and gray to a chasm vast and deep and wide, through which was flowing a sullen tide. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. The sullen stream had no fear for him, but he turned when safe on the other side and built a bridge to span the tide. Old man, said a fellow pilgrim near, you are wasting your strength with building here. Your journey will end with the ending day. You never again will pass this way. You've crossed the chasm deep and wide. Why build this bridge at evening tide? The builder lifted his old gray head. Good friend, in the path I have come, he said, there followed after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. This chasm that has been as naught to me, to that fair-haired youth may a pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I am building this bridge for him. And that to me embodies Gladys and everything she did to build up others to be able to move forward and do all the things that we have heard women are able and in a position to do. So thank you all for sharing the spirit of Gladys and all of the work that you're continuing to do. Thank you.
Yay, thank you so much, Deanna, and thank you for correcting me on your title. That was a perfect poem. It looks like we've got Shirley Zeller up next, and then Miss Joan Bauer, and then Sandra Seaton. So Shirley, would you like to take it away?
Sure. Sure, thank you very much. Katie actually said it all, so mine will be very short, but I was honored to serve as the, excuse me, president of the Michigan Women's Studies Association after Gladys until we merged with Michigan Women Foundation. So I had a lot of close contact with her. She was always a great mentor to me and to others, and always was forward thinking. Sometimes we'd go to her thinking she would shoot our ideas down, but if it meant moving forward, she was 100%. She was so passionate about recognizing Michigan women and providing history for girls coming up, and a great friend, and her work will go on. Thank you so much, and good to see all of you.
Thank you, Shirley. Joan Bauer, would you like to unmute yourself and share?
And when I first met Gladys, I was a young woman in my late 20s working at the YWCA, and many of you remember Mary Akey, and Mary sent me as the executive director of the Y. I was a staff person. She sent me to represent us with the Hall of Fame. And so I went to this meeting with all these remarkable women, and then Gladys says, we're going to raise $250,000. Now, mind you, at that time, that's like $1 million now. And I looked at her and thought, I never admitted this to her, but I thought, there's no way, this will never happen. Well, we all know with Gladys, it happened. We raised the money. She was just an amazing person. And as with many of you, over the next ensuing years, we'd get the calls, you know, if I was in the junior league. So of course she would call and we would end up going there to get grants for the Hall of Fame. She was always so purposeful and made things happen. So she was a wonderful role model for me. And I will always remember that. And again, as such a young woman way back then, what that really showed me. And then in my ensuing career, my memory is always Gladys, whether I was running for city council, whether I was state rep, she was always there to go door to door, to write me a check, to help me in any way. So she was just amazing. And the legacy that she has left in our community, the legacy for women inequality is just, I hope she knew how much she did and how much she was and is loved by all of us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I think you nailed it on the head. Women helping women. I mean, there's nothing we can't make happen when we support each other. And now Sandra Seaton would like to speak, and then Tammy would like to speak, and then Joellen. So Sandra, would you like to unmute yourself, or I can
I will unmute myself. Hello, and thank you, and this has been absolutely wonderful. I think I first met Gladys, or knew of her many years ago, when I was an undergraduate advisor at Michigan State University. And I was a newbie, and there was a program, a department called American Thought and Language. And this was Gladys's department. And so I asked around, I said, well, who should, when the students come in, who should I ask them to take? And right off, Beckwith. Her name was always coming up, along with a couple of others. And she was just considered, she was the go-to for that department. And, I got to know her through the Women's Hall of Fame and just different things that we did. And one thing I remember about Gladys was her loyalty to her friends. What an incredibly loyal person she was. I remember when Pat Julius, who also taught American Thought and Language, was very ill. And Gladys and a dear friend, Dorothy McMeekin, who was a professor in the Natural Sciences Department, and they were very close friends. And Dorothy's not here with us today, but I know her spirit is here with us, Gladys's, and Pat Julius's, because they hired a driver to go up to be with Pat a few days before she passed away. And that was a pretty long distance to go. And that's how much Gladys cared about her friends. And another thing I was thinking about, and you've shared so many great things, is I think Gladys was open, her openness to all. She was open to can I say a diversity of ideas? I always thought of Gladys, she was tenacious and she really cared about her own beliefs. But I think the thing that made her so powerful was that she was a bridge builder, and she could entertain other ideas along the way and try to get people to understand her point of view. So just an extraordinary woman, and thank you so much for this great tribute to her. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. And so now, oh dear, can somebody, Tammy, and then Joellen, and then Representative John Lynn. So Tammy, would you like to unmute yourself?
So first of all, I just want to thank everybody, for being here. And, I was not part of Gladys on a professional level, although when I look at everybody here and hear the names, I've been very fortunate to meet all of you through Gladys. And the stories that I'm hearing and the names that I'm hearing bring up memories of stories that Gladys has shared with me throughout the years. So on a personal level, I can share that, it's quite fitting that today's a sunny day. Those were her favorite days. If the sun wasn't out, she always talked about how gloomy it was. She just did not like that. The pandemic, took its toll on her, not just that she got COVID, but as you guys know, Gladys was very social. And when she couldn't go out and socialize, it was hard on her. And, she had a great group of friends that, really surrounded her through that time, but it was hard on her. A couple situations that I can share with you is, this was early on when Gladys and I had met, and I'm sure a lot of people were kind of wondering, because we were completely opposite. Our age differences were tremendous. She was very well educated while I was on the other side of the spectrum. But we just really hit it off and became very close friends. I could make her laugh and she could educate me all the time. When we first became friends and engaging in a lot of conversation, it was a goal of mine to tell her something before she'd know about it. I know it sounds trivial, but I just wanted to be able to educate her for once, and it never happened. Every time I call her, it didn't matter if it was 6 o'clock in the morning, I'd say, hey, Gladys, and tell her about whatever it was. And she, oh yeah, I already know about that. And she'd even have additional information on top of it. And it wasn't until probably a few months in, she had mentioned that she stayed up every night and listened to the BBC. So that's how she got her information way ahead of everybody else. One of the things that she loved to do, especially on a day like today, we would go over to the boat launch. She loved sitting by the water, and we'd spend hours there until we would get kicked out. We did have a couple of park rangers come and ask us to move, and as summer neared, she really wanted to go back down there, and I kept telling her, Gladys, they've already kicked us out twice. I don't know if we should do this. And in Gladys fashion, she was like, we need to go down there, because if they come and approach us again, I'm going to have a discussion, because I don't see the handicap signs where they need to be, and I cannot walk that distance. And I mean, she had a whole list. So I'm like, okay, we'll do it. But that fighting spirit, as you guys all know, it never went away from her. There was a time we were driving through East Lansing. She had to drop off some books over at the library. And it was at the time, and I don't remember the specific details, but there was a protest. A church group was coming into East Lansing protesting the high school because of gay and lesbian. I don't know if it was students or what exactly it was. So as we turned down the main road there in East Lansing, there were all these people lined up and signs and stuff. And Gladys happened to be driving, which I don't know if that was a good idea, but she was driving, and all of a sudden she just slammed on the brakes, and she's like, what is this? And I said, well, it's, this situation, these people are protesting, this church group. And she looked and she's like, well, are these our people? And I said, yeah, these people are, fighting for what's right. So she rolled down that window, and I turned around, and I swear to God, I saw, I never knew her at a young age, but it was like I saw this 20-year-old, and she put her body out of that car, and she was yelling and waving and hooting and hollering. And I just sat there, watching this 20-year-old come out of her, and that's when I really realized, how much she was passionate about fighting for the right thing. And it didn't matter. And anybody that, had ever gone to Gladys's home, tons of books. I mean, a lot of books. And the thing with Gladys, you might see a book on, Donald Trump, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, he's the opposite. But what Gladys always did, and I learned from her, you know, she was about education, as you guys know. And if there was something that she didn't know 100%, she bought the books and educated herself on it. So that's probably the biggest lesson that I took away was, you know, always educate yourself before you go in so that you know all the parameters and understanding. And, you know, she was a giver to many of us. And, you know, in the last year here, I was helping her out with bills and, you know, the stack of bills would be, you know, minute compared to the stack of donations. I never even knew that there was a donkey rescue until, you know, we started going through her donations. She donated to so many organizations and helped so many people. And it was just a passion for her. She loved young people. You know, as I look at everybody here, you know, there were always stories, the story about going up to Saginaw for the Delta College. I've heard that story. I've heard the story about Dorothy McMeekin. They went down to Detroit. There's another person where they had to drive like 5 miles in reverse to get out of a place that they shouldn't have been into. So yeah, I'm very fortunate that I got a chance to, you know her on that level. I wish I would have known her like you guys do, but I do feel very blessed. And I just thank each and every one of you for everything and the love that you all gave her throughout her life. And I can say with 100% certainty, she loved each and every one of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. I want to give a special shout out to Tammy. She was hugely instrumental in putting this memorial together. And I could not have done it without her. So thank you, Tammy. It's been a pleasure. And Joellen.
I want to of evidence how much Gladys was getting out and about. I last saw her 2 years ago when she came across the state for a program that I was doing. But I really got to know Gladys in the mid-1990s when I chaired the State History Conference. And I want to remind all of us now, especially that Gladys is historical, the importance of the historical to her. We were both very much shaped by second wave feminism, and women's studies programs pretty much started out by studying the historical. We can't move forward unless we know the past. And that was very much important to Gladys. And in fact, the Michigan Women's Studies Association was a product of second wave feminism, and the Greater Grand Rapids Women's History Council, of which I'm a part, probably was formed in part because of that model. And both have been in the business of understanding that second is a name, that there was a first wave feminism, and that we can still learn a lot from the women who came before us. And now Gladys is among them. Thank you.
Well said, well said. And now we have Representative Jondal.
Hi there, thank you. And thank you, Megan. And it's delightful in one sense to be here in the sense that just looking through the Zoom, there are so many memories that come back, the different ways in which we know each other and know each other through Gladys. It's just kind of fun to look through the rows of people here. So I appreciate that. I'm also appreciative of the kind of experience that I was exposed to. It was education, whether intentional or just because she does that to everyone and for everyone. There was no phone call with Gladys that didn't include, no matter what the basic subject was, that didn't include an update on the news of the day. Who were the good people? Who were the bad people? Who were the allies? What did we have to do? And so on. As well as, of course, what the market was doing. That was always the part of each of those phone calls. When Katie was talking earlier, it was just a wonderful opportunity to follow with her a variety of experiences. And I remember when Katie talked about the petition experience that Gladys had on the reproductive rights petition. The phone call, of course, I got from Gladys. At that time, I was working, as was she, with the ACLU. And so Gladys's call at that time included the need for some legal help here. Where can we pass these petitions and so on? So there was always this agenda that she was working on and requiring the rest of us to get involved with her on. Tammy talked about the many interests that Gladys had and how she was kind of a hub of information. And it's a life that's easy for me to celebrate. And along with all of you, it's been a wonderful experience of my being educated in terms of the women's movement, individual women, and this whole goal of hers, which she succeeded at, of focusing these issues for the community at large. Thank you all, and thank you, Megan.
Thank you. Sandy Soifer, who is a former director of the Michigan Women's Historical Center and Hall of Fame. You know what? I'm trying to figure out who would have been the director in the late 90s when I first visited the museum. That wasn't you.
Gladys was always the director.
Yeah.
And
right.
the president until 2008, when the board decided to hire a paid executive director, which was me. I was the first. Right. This was really a transitional time for the Hall of Fame and the Michigan Women's Studies Association. I mean, in reflecting on it, I know that this was a difficult time, this transition for Gladys, but never once, you know, she wasn't the type of person who would come in and say, you know, this is the way we did it, or I'm going to teach you something. But it was more her presence. I think she came and helped every day, except for those days that she was volunteering for the Democrats or some other organization in our county. But she would come, and really every day was a teachable moment. And we did things together for a long time so that it could be a smooth transition. And one of the big well, firstly, I came in September of 2008, and then, of course, Gladys showed up by October. The economic crash was something everyone was experiencing in the stock market, and Gladys was consumed by that. And our goal to raise $50,000 or $60,000 to create the Hall of Fame historical, the MWSA and Hall of Fame historical video in the spring. You know, it could have been overwhelming, but on the other hand, it was a task that she wanted to really see to fruition. And we did, you know, that was one of our biggest accomplishments in that first 6 months that I was there. But it was, you know, I'm not like many of the other people on this call. I didn't know Gladys for decades. I came to events at different times, but, you know, I didn't know her for that many years. But my relationship was certainly extremely special. She helped me in all of my successes in my new role. And it was just a joy to work with her. As you've all said, the education part was, you know, very subtle when you worked with Gladys. It's not like she ever took the reins and took over. It's more sharing. It's about how she could share her experiences and you could learn from them. And I was always extremely grateful for our relationship over the years that I was the director there.
Thank you, Sandy. That was lovely. And then I think the last person who messaged me is Miss Pam Withrow, a Hall of Famer herself. There's many Hall of Famers on this, by the way.
Well, I'd like to share Gladys's spirit of adventure. She was in her late 80s, and we were going out to lunch pretty frequently. And I would often talk about my love of train travel. I have friends and family on the West Coast, and I would take the train from Chicago and go out to visit them. And as I was talking about that, Gladys said, well, my daughter lives in Washington State. Maybe I could go along with you sometime. And I thought about that and realized that mostly, as Katie said, I would be the mule. I would be the strong person because her luggage and my luggage would get carried by me. But as I thought about it, okay. So we arranged a trip. She got a roomette and I got a roomette across from each other. And we traveled from Chicago to Portland, Oregon, where Gladys' daughter, Chris, met us. Gladys and her daughter then went and toured the Oregon coast. I visited with family. We met up again and went down the coast to Sacramento, I think it was, and took the train back east. And as we were going through that beautiful Red Rock country along the Colorado River, I warned Gladys that there was a tradition along the Colorado that if the rafters were coming along when the train was coming by, that you were likely to get mooned. I wasn't sure if Gladys knew what mooned meant, but she assured me she knew what mooned meant. And I said, no, if that's offensive, Gladys, you just, let me know. And she says, oh no, I want to see it. And sure enough, we got mooned. And sure enough, she was all excited about it. It was such a delight, even in her later years, because she was up for anything. And she would initiate adventures. I wouldn't necessarily think of things, but she would. And we'd go off and have these small adventures that older ladies can have together. I sure miss her.
Thank you for the good laugh, Pam. Well, I think that was everybody who sent a message to me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share one last beautiful gift from Inger, who would like to sing Amazing Grace for us to finish this out. Once the song is over, I will keep the meeting open for all of you to unmute yourselves and catch up, or do whatever you want to do, or you're welcome to leave. I will stay on if anybody has any questions or wants to talk about what's going on with the museum and Hall of Fame. I am an open book, and I am happy to chat. So once again, thank you, Inger and Alexandra. This one is really lovely. This song rendition of it. Oh, that's not it.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Whitmer.
That's not it. Sorry, everybody. There it is. All right, can you see the Amazing Grace video?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. Was grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears really. Oh, how precious dear that grace appear the hour I first believed. Alleluia. Oh, hallelujah. Praise God. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Praise God. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see.
Yay, Inger! That was amazing. I thought I was going to make it through this without crying, but that one did it. Do you want to share anything or?
Oh, it's just such an honor to be here today and hear all these words about Gladys. So many things that I didn't know, and I'm just so moved to hear everybody's stories and what an incredible, amazing, powerful woman she was. So thank you for hosting this today. I'm really grateful. This is Jeff.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you.
Of course, an honor.
That was
to be-
awesome. That studio is cool too. I just like feel the need to make music. Just
Yeah, that's what
watching
we do.
that.
That's what we do. In fact, we have a live stream coming up on the 20th, I think, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
You're all invited.
Yeah, send the link or whatever it is, and I can make sure it's that.
Great.
Maybe Gladys will come too.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody. Please feel free to unmute yourselves and chat or go eat lunch or whatever it is you want to do. It truly was an honor and a privilege to organize this today. And it has been an honor and a privilege getting to work with several of you, Katie, Tammy, Pam, Shirley, I mean, everybody who has been so helpful in organizing this. Alexandra, Inger, thank you guys so much. So
Thank you, everyone. This was beautiful. I only knew Gladys through her dogs because she adopted her dogs from me, but she was wonderful and I visited her every couple of weeks. And she was a force to be reckoned with. And she did want to come to South Africa to live with me for a couple of months. And she even got a traveling companion that was going to bring her over and bring her back. So I'm really sorry that she's not going to be able to do that because she would have loved it. But she'll be there in spirit. Thank you.
thank you, Kristen.
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
All right, I'm Pat Cruza, and I first met Gladys in 1973. And she had just started the Women's Studies Association, and I was the director of the Women's Commission. And she came to me and she said, we need a place. And she said, it's like Virginia Woolf. And Virginia Woolf has said that women need a room of their own. And she said, I want us to have a place of our own. And that's when she worked to start the museum. And so I've known Gladys since 1973. And I last spoke to her on her birthday, on her 91st birthday. And so I've probably known Gladys longer than almost anybody else in the audience. So she did a wonderful job, and we are indebted to her to make sure that we have a place of our own. And I want to say, Megan, you're carrying on everything Gladys stood for. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm not gonna lie, the almost burden it feels to step into Dr. Beckwith's shoes. Not that I will ever fit into her shoes, but it's scary. It is. I mean, she's one of the greats. And I'm not just talking about one of the great women of Michigan. I'm talking about one of the great human beings. And because I'm getting tired and fed up of women being judged in their own category, separately from men, and like, oh yeah, she's doing good things for a woman, like I'm tired of that. So thank you. Well, is everybody kind of emotionally spent and ready to eat some lunch? All right. Well, thank you all so much. Again, I will post this recording along with Katie's eulogy, if you grant me that permission, to our website. Okay, cool. To our website. And I will also be sending out a link of the recording to your emails, all of your emails. If you ever need anything, want to talk about, brainstorm anything in terms of the future Women's Historical Center and Hall of Fame, I am all ears. I am so receptive of any feedback and ideas. So please give me a call. I'm gonna put my cell phone in the chat. Seriously, feel free to call me and say, hey, this is what we should do. Because I am ready for ideas and energy and yeah. So thank you all. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. This is amazing.
Megan, thank you so much. I don't think I realized until I logged on how important this was to do. So whoever, all the people who organized it, just so, I mean, I'm so glad that I was here today, and I didn't know it would be as meaningful and powerful. It's just such a wonderful way to honor her, but also just a wonderful tribute, but did so much for me. So thank you, everybody. I hope I'm seeing people nodding. I think we all feel that was very important to do.
I thought the same thing, Joan. I just, seeing all of your faces helps. Definitely.
I think that's one more terrible thing about COVID is that it's prevented us from getting together to celebrate Gladys the way she truly would have been. So it was so good to see all of you. She would be happy. She'd also be embarrassed by all the fuss, but.
Yes, Alex just sent me a direct message. It's up to all of us now. Yes.
It is. And one of Gladys's local places, as everybody that knew Gladys, she always supported local business. Her favorite place was Harry's on Verlinden Avenue. If anybody wants to meet, I'd be happy to meet for a beer and a burger. That's what she loved. And so just let me know. I know people are still leery about the pandemic, so I get it if nobody wants to. But if somebody would like to, I'd be happy to meet you up there. Just throw it in the chat, though, so I know. Thanks. And thanks again, Megan. I really appreciate everything. I know you've given me credit, but I really haven't done anything, so thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close the meeting now. The memorial, it's not a meeting.